If you want to get your own video made for you, exactly the same as you'll see in this one, then check out the first link in the description to get your personal PowerPoint made. Private option available. Okay, so as usual, we're going to be starting off with your best features. Your first best feature is equal facial thirds, and if we can just see on your face, like if we imagined there were lines drawn downwards, they would be equal. They would be similar to this guy where the facial thirds are equal, and this is just generally a masculine and attractive way to have your face. You don't want a narrowing lower third, that just ends up looking more feminized and less attractive. So definitely a strong feature for you. Next, I also think your hair texture and your hairline as well is good. It doesn't look like you've got any Norwooding, which, kind of reflects your age. You're only 22 years old, so it's something to keep an eye out just in the future, in case it does change. But for now, I think that your hair has a good hairline. Your hair has a good density, it has a good thickness, it has a good darkness. There's no problems whatsoever there, and it's definitely one of your best features. Next, you've also got clear skin. This is very clear to see, and it's definitely a good health indicator, and it's a positive feature you have. You also have a good eyebrow thickness and a good eyebrow shape. And in fact, if we go back to this previous slide, we can see your eyebrows look very similar to this, actually. So there's no flaws here, really. And yeah, you'll definitely have a strong feature with regard to your eyebrows. Next, you also have a good eye shape. It's this almond type of shape, which is definitely a positive. And it looks like you have a slight positive canthal tilt, which is definitely a positive as well. You have a good lip thickness, and you have a broad chin. It's not quite as good as this, but I wouldn't say it's narrow. It's around average, so it's, good. It still looks masculine, in my opinion. And even if we check the side profile, there is a flaw related to this, which we'll get to later. But from the front profile, your chin looks to have a good width. And for the last good feature that you have a good facial symmetry. You can't really see any facial asymmetries here in your face, so yeah, this is another good feature you have. And now getting into your flaws, and there's roughly an equal amount compared to your best features. Now, the first few are very, very severe for you, especially when we go to your side profile, because this is what I would say is letting you down the most. Your body fat is pretty high. Like, if we go to the shirtless pictures, you look to be around 20%. Like, you have got some amount of muscle, and you're 73 kilograms at 5'6", which is a good weight. It is above average in terms of weight for your size and your height. However, there is just too much fat there, and you can clearly see this. It seems you've got a little bit of a belly. There isn't any definition there, and yeah, I'd say you're around the 20% range, and it's definitely hurting your attractiveness. If you got lean, if you just cut weight, then I think that you would definitely look a lot better. And the main problem that this high body fat percentage is causing, because we can see the difference between being overweight versus lean, is you have loose hyoid skin. And this is most noticeable in the side profile. I would say this is your worst feature, and it is a direct byproduct from having a high body fat percentage. Like, when you've got a jawline like this, there's no visibility. This just generates zero primal from women, and this is a looks killer. Like, this is killing your looks. It's definitely your worst flaw, and it's just making your side profile very, very subpar. And as I said, there's no primal related from this. It's harder to see from the front angle. Maybe that's because you're tilting your head up a little bit, but from the side angle, it's very, very, very noticeable, and it is absolutely killing your looks. You're going to see the rating later in the video, but you would have got a much higher rating if you didn't have just this one flaw. So I think going forward, lowering your body fat percentage, just getting to this shape, and to be completely honest, if we go to your physique, your level of muscle isn't that far off compared to this guy. Yeah, this guy has a tiny bit more muscle, but it's mainly because he's just a bit leaner. And if you was able to lower your body fat percentage, I think your shoulders need work as well. You want a bit more upper body strength. However, if you just get to this level, then I think that your face is going to become a lot more lean, and it's definitely going to improve your attractiveness. And the final flaw that is related to your body fat percentage is that your cheeks are too rounded. It's very visible in this photo, it's visible here too, and it's visible here as well. You don't have this leaner look, which is more on the ideal. And again, this is all related to body fat percentage, so this is the top priority for you to fix. But luckily, it is something that you absolutely can fix, and that is by lowering your body fat percentage. So I would say the most important looks maxing advice that you can implement, and it absolutely will improve your attractiveness, your dating results, everything to do with your looks, is by implementing these kind of regime. I think that you need to, as I mentioned, increase the size of your upper body. Your shoulders, your traps don't look too big, so I would be focusing on those kinds of resistance training. However, just eating healthily and lowering your body fat percentage in this way is going to be really important. And most people don't realize that to lower your body fat percentage, it is mainly about the food you're eating, not the exercise you're doing. Obviously, exercise helps, but it's roughly 65% food and 35% exercise. Obviously, you want both, but it's mainly about the food that you're eating. So look at the food you're eating. Are you eating food that is high in protein, high in fat, low carbs? Or if you are eating carbs, it's healthy carbs like this, which have a lot of fiber, not just processed garbage, which has a very high calorie density, and you're just putting garbage into you. And this is what causes the issues that we're describing. So the reason I'm talking so much about this is because this is just killing your looks. When you've got a high body fat percentage, when you've got loose hyoid skin, then this is what can really reduce your final score by 1-2 points, maybe even more, depending on how good the underlying bone structure is. But anyway, you do have some structural flaws that we're going to get into as well. The first one of which, and I would say this is your biggest structural flaw, is the lack of chin projection. And it's very clear to see if we compared your chin to the images over here. Yours is pretty much identical to this one, and you don't have good chin projection. It will be a lot better, more masculine, more attractive if you had a forwardly grown chin such as this one. And relating to this flaw, you also don't have as much forward growth. It is probably medium, but it would just be better if it was shooting a tiny bit further, getting to this point past your nasal bridge, because when it comes to forward growth of your jaw, it's not just about it reaching your nasal bridge, but ideally you want it to overshoot it by a little bit, as you can see from the ideal here, whereas even this one, it's probably similar to the amount of forward growth you have. It's not as attractive, it's not as ideal. Next, you have a rounded jaw, and this is all tied in with the body fat percentage again, so this might not even be structural. If you got lean, this wouldn't necessarily be a problem, but at the moment, we can see from these images that your jawline is too round. You can see that it's not got that definition. And likewise, this is also giving you a round gonian. Again, it might not be structural. You could have a sharp gonian, but you won't know until you lower your body fat percentage. Next, I think that your maxilla is also a little bit flat. And this is another structural problem. It's not crazy bad, but it looks like it would be more ideal if it was just a bit more forwardly projected, such as you can see in this image up here. Next, you also have a flat brow ridge. Your brow ridge isn't very prominent. It would be better if it was more like this, where it's clearly overhooding the eyes, but yours is more like this one, where it's just more rounded. And next, you also have a slightly oversized nose. It's not that bad, but that's why it's lower down on the list, but it is a little bit too big for my liking. Next, you also have slightly too much nostril show. Again, it's not a major flaw, which is why it's down low on the list, but you can see it's just a little bit too upturned. It would be better if it was more flat, and I wouldn't recommend anything surgically for these flaws because it's very, very minor and it's low on the list. And lastly, you have a large eye to eyebrow length. As we can compare your face to these two over here, yours is more similar to this one, which makes your eyes a little bit more like prey. But as a whole, I still think that your eye area is one of your strongest parts of your face. I would say your strengths are your skin, your eye area, including your eyebrows and your hair, and your lips, and the rest are weaknesses. The jaw is just letting you down so much. If you fix that, which is pretty much fixable if you lowered your body fat percentage, I think that your score is going to be higher. And now getting into looks maxing advice. With regard to hair, I think there's no issues whatsoever. I think you've got a good hairstyle. It suits you. You've got a naturally large skull and equal facial thirds, so I think the short hair on the top and even shorter on the side suits you. There's no changes, and it's pretty similar to these guys over here. Next, height maxing. You're only 5'6", so this is definitely going to be something that you want to do. 5'6" is a very, very below average height, and if we go to these pictures, you can see that your stature is quite low. It's hard when there's no points of comparison, but being 5'6" is a rejection signal in a lot of cases. It definitely is a hit against your looks. I've made plenty of videos on the main channel talking about the height pill, so your height definitely isn't working for you. So you want to get up to a marginal height by wearing shoes that are just 1 to 2, probably in your case, preferably 2 inches bigger, because then you get to 5'8". If you want to really push it to the extra mile, get to 5'9", and then now you're in that marginal range, and you're not going to get those instant rejections from height, not just with regard to women, but even the treatment that other people give you as well, including men, because shorter men just have it worse, unfortunately. Next, as for good style, I think that just stick to the basics. Your frame is okay, as I said, you've got an average amount of muscle, and if we just stick to some neutral colours, some neutral clothes, then I think that's going to be good for you. And finally, I think that in the short term, before you lower your body fat percentage, I think growing a beard to hide your flaws will definitely go a long way, especially with regard to fixing the side profile, because if we just look at this image over here, when the guy grows the beard, you can see it just makes his face look more masculine, more attractive, because he's got some flaws. His jawline is a little bit too rounded in the before, his lower third is a bit too narrow compared to his upper thirds, but when he grows a beard, you're able to shape it and mask some of the flaws, make your chin broader, make your ramus longer, make your jaw more wide, so some of these flaws can be fixed if you grow a beard, and I think it looks like you do have the genetic potential. Just look at the images. Maybe you can't, but it's worth a consideration. Maybe you would need to supplement it with minoxidil to increase the chances. But either way, this would still only be a temporary measure in my opinion, and that's why I'd mainly focus on lowering your body fat percentage first, and then you might not even need to grow facial hair because you could have a really chiseled jawline underneath if the fundamentals are decent. Like, you look to see him have a decent width. The side profile isn't great, obviously, because of the chin projection. Maybe you can just deal with growing a goatee for that, and that will be sufficient. But I think that there is potential for you to have a good jaw. It's just going to be about lowering your body fat percentage. So anyway, given all of these good features, given all of these flaws, what are we going to give your final rating based on how you look now? And my face rating for you is 4 out of 10, which is below average. And some people might think this is a little bit harsh, but honestly, I think your side profile is just doing it for me. Like, I was initially going to give you a 5, to be honest, and I think from the front profile you might actually be 5. However, from this side profile, I would give your side profile a 3, so it averages out to 4 out of 10, because as I mentioned, the loose hyoid skin, this is just a looks killer, and it's killing your primal, and it's definitely reducing your score. So even though 4 out of 10 might sound harsh, I think that your front profile is 5, your side is bringing it down to 3. However, the most important point I want to make in this video is that there absolutely is potential for you to improve. Even though you have got 4 now, if you Looksmaxx, mainly just from doing one thing, lowering your body fat percentage, I think 5 is easily within your reach, potentially 6 as well. So don't be disheartened by the low rating. I think that you've got potential to reach 5 or 6, and what your rating means at the moment, again, I wouldn't take this too seriously because it's all going to change in future. You're in the bottom 40% to bottom 10% of men, so you're in between this range, and only 10% scored lower than you, 30% scored the same, and 60% scored higher. However, once you reach the 5 out of 10, maybe even 6 out of 10 range, then that score will absolutely change, and that's all going to happen after you lower your body fat percentage. So I wish you all the best, man, and thanks for purchasing. If you want to get your own video made for you, exactly the same as you'll see in this one, then check out the first link in the description to get your personal PowerPoint made. Private option available.